Thank you, everybody, for coming to the Aaron Torres Podcast YouTube page. I do have one quick favor before we get to the video that you came here for, and that is very simply this. You see that little red subscribe button below this video? Go ahead, smash that subscribe button. It really does help me. It really does help this channel grow and my audience grow. So go ahead and hit that red subscribe button. And now, here is the video that you came here for. New Mexico State taking care of UConn, but let's start with the upset of all upsets, the stunner out of the East Regional, where St. Peter's beat the University of Kentucky, okay? St. Peter's, as a number 15 seed, goes into the bracket, into Indianapolis, which is essentially Kentucky territory. I think they said on the broadcast it's about an hour and a half from Lexington to Indianapolis. I think I've actually done that drive before. It is not a long drive. St. Peter's goes into Indianapolis and beats Kentucky. Final score, 85-79. And we're going to get into all the details in a minute, but let me not bury the lead. The lead is pretty straightforward. This is the worst loss of the John Calipari era. And as I just said, I do think it is time, if it hasn't been done already, and it was certainly done last year during a very disappointing COVID year, I think it's time to start wondering if the best days of the Calipari era are behind us, and if Calipari, I don't even know. Let's just get into it. Let's break it down, and let's talk about it, because what I would say is this, okay? So obviously over the last couple days, I have spent a ton of time looking into this NCAA tournament bracket, and I'm not saying I'm any different than anybody else who covers this sport. I mean, obviously, when I am coming on this podcast and asking you guys and girls to download it, it comes from a place of you guys trust me as somebody that is going to give you good information. And I bring it up to say I've spent a lot of time on just about all these games, and what I'll tell you is this. There were some upsets that if you dug deep enough, you could probably see coming. I told you UConn can't score. We're going to talk about UConn in a minute. You could see the scenario where New Mexico State beat them. Richmond, veteran team, A10, hot off the A10 championship. You could see the scenario where they beat Iowa, even if I certainly didn't pick it. I will tell you this. I spent actually a lot of time looking into St. Peter's, and there was absolutely nothing that reflected that this game would even be very close at all. St. Peter's came into this game as one of the lowest scoring teams on the season in the NCAA tournament, and I know part of that is tempo, part of that is this, part of it is that. But they were a team that averaged 66 points per game this year. Their front court, Kentucky's strength, their front court, Oscar Tshiebwe, one of the greatest rebounders we've ever seen in a single season in college basketball. Kentucky has that guy. St. Peter's has two guys in their front court that are 6'7", under 200 pounds. St. Peter's had a negative assist-to-turnover ratio, which means they averaged more turnovers per game than assists. And so I bring it up to say there were plenty of upsets that you could potentially see coming. There was no way that anyone could have possibly seen this coming unless you either just don't follow college basketball and you fill out a bracket blindly, or you know somebody that plays for St. Peter's. And so to me, more than anything, that is what the crazy part about all of this is that it was a stunner of all stunners, and what was, I think, indisputable when watching this game on TV, and why Kentucky fans, I believe, are especially frustrated, is that one team came out absolutely more prepared and ready to play and better, just more ready to go in this game, and that was the St. Peter's Peacocks. We can dance around it, and you guys and girls know me. I'm not about the X's and O's. I'm not going to tell you that they did this or they did that or they hard-hedged on screens or their three-point defense was this. No, but what I can tell you is if you turn on that game, Kentucky came out like it was a December game against a no-name team in Rupp Arena, and St. Peter's came out with a game plan distinctly designed to beat the team in front of them, Kentucky. Again, I don't have all the details. I wasn't sitting in on scouting meetings, but I'll just give you an example. The TV broadcast kept referencing the fact that every time a shot went up, specifically when Kentucky had the ball on offense, St. Peter's put three bodies. Three bodies immediately found Oscar Tshiebwe. Now, I know Oscar Tshiebwe still finished with 30 and 16, but it was clear that there was a game plan and there was an idea that St. Peter's had coming into this game as to how they could beat Kentucky, and that was my biggest takeaway. This isn't an excuse for Kentucky. People saw it as an excuse. I said, St. Peter's was the better coach team. They were better prepared. And some people were like, you're making excuses for Kentucky's loss. I'm like, no, I'm not. I just crushed John Calipari. What are you talking about? But that's the bottom line. And so when you look at this Kentucky loss, yeah, there are some people that some way, shape, or form can make an excuse for Kentucky. I'm not going to do it right now, though. People would say, oh, they missed a bunch of free throws. That's very true. Kentucky was 23 of 35 for the game, 1 of 6 in overtime. They went 4 of 15 from 3. But the bottom line is one team was better coached, one team was better prepared, one team came out looking like they didn't have a scouting report because they were just getting ready for the next game, and that was the University of Kentucky. And so when it comes to this, you can blame the players. You can blame free throws. You can say Kellen Grady, and I hate to pick on one player in specific, but really, really, really struggled. But at the end of the day, it falls on one person, and it falls on John Calipari. When I look at this whole situation, it all falls on John Calipari, and we need to have a serious conversation about John Calipari, okay? I'm not saying that John Calipari needs to be fired. I am not saying that at all. I did not say that last year when Kentucky was 9-16 or whatever they were, 9-15, 9-16 during their COVID year. But I also don't think that we can ignore trends on John Calipari, that his best days are behind him, and that this program is no longer operating at the level that it was 6, 7, 8 years ago. First of all, I would just say look at the recent just results in general. Let's not say they've been terrible, but remember, this was, in John Calipari's own words, the gold standard. 2010, John Wall, DeMarcus Cousins, all those guys, we don't need to relitigate history. But you have 5 first-round picks. You have easily the best team in college basketball that year, even though they didn't win a national championship. 2011, you make a Final Four. 2012, you win a national championship. 2013, you lose everybody, you go to the NIT, whatever. 2014, you play for a championship. 2015, you make a Final Four. I would argue that that era of Kentucky basketball ended in 2017. If you remember, that was the year they make the Elite Eight. They beat Lonzo Ball and UCLA in the Sweet 16. And in the Elite Eight, they lose essentially on a buzzer beater. Luke May, North Carolina, hits a shot with like 0.8 seconds left. North Carolina goes to the Final Four. North Carolina that year wins a national championship. Kentucky loses with De'Aaron Fox, Bam Adebayo, whatever. I bring it up to say that was the last team, in my opinion, that looked like the early era John Calipari Kentucky teams. 3 lottery picks, Bam Adebayo, De'Aaron Fox, and Malik Monk, and was a shot away from going to the Final Four where they probably would have been favored to win the national championship. Since then, here are the results, and this is not my opinion. This is just a fact. So keep in mind that from 2010 until 2015, those first 6 years, Calipari goes to 4 Final Fours. 2017, he goes to an Elite Eight. Here's what they have done since. 2018, whole team is freshmen and sophomores. They're a number 5 seed. They lose in the Sweet 16 to a number 9 seed, Kansas State, in probably prior to Thursday night, the worst loss of the John Calipari era, okay? Lose to Bruce Weber, who just resigned, whatever. You lose to Bruce Weber in a year where the whole path was set up for you. Kansas State got to the Sweet 16 because the number 1 seed in that region, Virginia, lost in the opening round. And oh, by the way, you had to beat Loyola Chicago to go to the Final Four. You can write that off as a one-off deal in 2018. 2019, really good team. Kentucky loses in the Elite Eight, P.J. Washington, Tyler Hero, to an Auburn team that they had already beaten twice. 2020, there's no tournament. I get it. I understand. They had a team that was maybe good enough to win the national championship that year. We'll never know, but 2021 was a disaster. And 2022, we all know what happened. You lose as a 2 seed to a 15 seed in St. Peter's. What's especially disappointing for Kentucky fans, I think, is that the excuses that have been used in the past are no longer really applicable, right? What was the excuse in the past? Well, we're so young and we're all freshmen and this is what happens and, we're just trying to build boys into men and sometimes you win and sometimes you lose in March. And I'm not saying that's an excuse, and I'm not even saying it's a bad thing. Like Calipari, it worked in 2010, 2014, 2012, obviously, even 2015. Because at least in those years, you're winning the SEC regular season, you're winning the SEC tournament, you're making Final Fours, you're competing at the highest level for a national championship. And I think that's what's especially frustrating about this season. This season was supposed to be different. This season was where you tore everything down last offseason and built it back up. You changed your coaching staff. You went hard in the portal. You said, I don't care about NBA talent. I don't care about one and done. Get me the best veteran players in college basketball. And you build this team that you believe is built differently, but built to succeed in March. Instead, not only do you lose to a 15 seed, but here's where I would be concerned if I was a Kentucky fan. This team clearly peaked probably about 8 weeks ago. And that's not even my opinion. This is a fact. I put this out on Twitter, and a lot of you may have seen it. Some of you probably didn't. But check out this. This is a mind-blowing stat, okay? So when we thought that Kentucky was a team that was good enough to win a national championship, it was because from about Christmas until February 1st, they were just steamrolling everybody. They beat North Carolina by 29 points in Las Vegas at the CBS Sports Classic. They beat Tennessee by 28 at Rupp Arena in January. They beat Kansas by 18 at Fog Allen Fieldhouse in late January heading into February. Well, guess what? Not only did Kentucky lose tonight, but look at what those other teams did. North Carolina beat Marquette by 28. Tennessee won by 30-plus against Longwood. Kansas won by 27 against Texas Southern. And I know it's only Texas Southern and it's only Longwood. But Kansas did what they were supposed to do. Tennessee did what they were supposed to do. Kentucky lost to St. Peter's in a game where they were clearly outcoached and they were outprepared. And so to me, I think that's where you get frustrated if you're a Kentucky fan coming out of Thursday night. And we're going to talk about this in a minute with UConn. It's one thing to lose in the tournament. Everybody loses. There's only one team that at the end of the tournament is truly happy. But it's another thing to lose a game like this where you are unprepared, unready to go, and you lose to a team, and this is no disrespect at all to St. Peter's. Shaheen Holloway did an incredible job having his team ready to go, prepared, on top of everything, etc. This is not a knock on St. Peter's. But at the same time, it's one thing if you lose and the other team just goes crazy. I mean, even as a UConn fan, Teddy Allen went for 37. I mean, he was hitting impossible shots. I'm frustrated as a UConn fan. But for a Kentucky fan, you're sitting there saying, we lost because we were not ready to go, and they were. And what I think is especially concerning if you're a Kentucky fan is it's exactly what I said a minute ago. Nobody's saying John Calipari is getting fired, nor should he be. To be clear, I'm not saying he needs to be fired. That's not what I'm saying. I'm not saying he needs to go. But what I am saying is when he goes back to campus and he sits down and he really evaluates everything, what else is there to change, right? Because last offseason, he changed the coaching staff. Last offseason, he said he was going to be more aggressive in the portal, bring in older players. He said he was going to switch up the offense, make it more three-point spacing, ball movement, whatever. He changed everything, and you have somehow the worst result of the John Calipari era at Kentucky. And so, for the final time, and we'll move on to some of these other games, I'm not saying Calipari needs to be fired. I'm not saying that, shake it up. Because, by the way, at the end of the day, and I know fans hate when you say stuff like this. I don't know who you get that's better, and I don't know who you get that's available. I mean, look at what's going on in college basketball right now. Indiana ended up hiring an NBA assistant. Louisville ended up hiring an NBA assistant. North Carolina hired an assistant internally last offseason. Arizona hired a Gonzaga assistant. So I know Kentucky fans just want him out and want somebody else. There's nobody else out there. But what I would say is I think it's pretty indisputable at this point with the results that we've gotten that this is just not the same program that it was. And I have truly believed over the last 3, 4, 5 years, when you recruit the way that Calipari does, when you flip over a roster, you're going to have highs and you're going to have lows and you're going to have peaks and you're going to have valleys. And maybe this was just the wrong team on the wrong night because it was a mostly successful season. But at the same time, you can't keep making excuses. You can't keep saying it's this, it's that, it's the other thing. At some point, this is becoming a trend. As I said, this is now the 5 straight years, really going back to 2017. You've made 3 tournaments over that stretch. 1 NCAA tournament was canceled. And you've had 3 really disappointing losses in each of their own rights. All 3, you would say that they were the less prepared, less ready to go team and underachieved and lost to a team that they shouldn't have. And then, of course, last year you had 9-16. And so it's going to be a long offseason in Kentucky. Calipari's not going anywhere unless, somehow he convinces somebody in the NBA to whatever. I'm not even going to go there. Calipari's not going anywhere. I'm not saying he should be fired. I'm just saying this is a very, very volatile and interesting time to be a Kentucky fan.